Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Episode 2 of the podcast. And we are joined today with Abbey Reggardo, who is the senior mortgage consultant and founder of AMB Financial Services. And we're going to have a chat to her today about her journey along the way and kind of what inspired her to start her, make it out on her own and start her own business and leaving that safety net of, full-time employment. So welcome to the podcast, Abbey.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I guess straight off the bat, let's just talk a little bit about your history in financial services. Or actually, let's go back a little bit further. Like, when did you realize you wanted to get into financial services? Was it always something going into uni, it's something you studied, then went into, or is it something you fell into? How'd you get your start down that path?
Good question. I was not one for uni. I didn't go to uni. I left school. I finished year 12 and I thought I wanted to go to uni, but I think I had such a massive year in year 12. I wanted to have a bit of a gap year, and I had a year off to work in my mum's clothing store. And obviously enjoying the freedom of not having school, I fell into a role with Elders Real Estate back home where I'm from. I'm from a little country town in rural Victoria, and I kind of started working my way up through real estate from 19 years of age. And I think, being in the real estate game at such a young age, it was so full on. And in the turn of that, I moved to Perth, where I got into real estate as well. And, being in my, I think I was 21, 22, being in a sales type role in real estate, working 7 days a week, I was just burning the candle at both ends, you could say. That I ended up getting a job at Commonwealth Bank, and that's when I kind of fell into lending, I suppose. Having the background of real estate, and then working alongside the branch lender, I had amazing relationships over there that they kind of more management, I suppose, pushed me into lending. They knew that I was more than capable of doing it, and having the background of real estate and such a huge passion for the real estate industry. I really, I suppose, have my managers back then to thank for pushing me into lending and where I am today.
So I guess that coming from the real estate side of the things, you would be, I guess, dealing with people who are on the other end who are looking to borrow money and lend money from banks in order to pay for the houses, right? So you're quite comfortable with that setting and scenario, that it was kind of this, was it an easy transition into the lending space?
Not at all.
Okay.
You would think it would be.
Yeah.
But, I remember when I first started lending at one of the banks, and it was basically anyone starting from scratch, you're green. I suppose I understood the transaction from a sales side of the fence, but it's a completely different ball game when you're dealing with credit and conveyances from a lending aspect as you would from a sales. But I think going from being predominantly a branch-based lender for a couple of banks into the broking space, I feel like having the real estate background and then the branch-based lender background into broking, it all kind of clicked and fell into place thereafter, I would say.
So from that first role at CommBank and getting, I guess, like your wings at that, you went around a little bit, but still within the financial space and lending and brokerage and stuff like this. So once you got that job and you started to, understand the full process of it, I guess at some point you just fell in love with it, and you was there a moment where you're like, yeah, I could see myself doing this as a career, where you didn't so much see that with the real estate?
Well, I've always had a huge passion for real estate, and I love property. I'm obsessed with going through property, and I'm always on realestate.com. Like, it's just a real obsession for me. And I think getting into real estate really drove that passion, and I was probably lost in working out what that meant for me. But starting to work for the banks and working my way up from a teller to a branch-based lender, I really got to see the banking side, ins and outs, from, the entry level role up to the management type role, that when I got into mortgage broking, I kind of just fell into my niche and it all kind of clicked. This is where I'm meant to be and this is what I'm meant to do.
So had you always thought about one day that you'd like to start your own business? Because like you say, many people could be happy working for a bank for 20 years and working their way up the structure and becoming, a director or something like that. Starting your own business is very tricky and quite the leap. But at what point did you think, did you always know that it was something you wanted to do? Or was there a certain point where you're like, hey, look, I kind of feel like I understand, I have a really good grasp on kind of everything and I'm in a really good position where I could do this myself? Like, when was that point you're like, hey, I could do this as my own business? I guess maybe it runs in the family as well, having running their own business and stuff. And was it always something that you were trying to do?
If you look at my family all run their own small businesses. My dad's a commercial-based fisherman back in Lakes Entrance. My mum run our family clothing store for 11 years. So we've always, I suppose, run our own businesses effectively, my whole family. So that drive of wanting to create something for yourself has always been within me, whether I knew I wanted to start my own business or not. I think it's just a part of who I am. But I suppose working through the banks and going through the ranks, when you're in such a large scale business, there's a lot of corporate politics that you've got to get through, and that's something that I probably never enjoyed being a part of. Whereas, rolling out AMB and having my own business now, I don't have any of that, fun and games that goes with, working for a big corporate business. So, I think I probably hadn't realized it until the last couple of years that I wanted to do this, but it's always been there in the back of my mind, I suppose.
And I guess having the family there also is kind of people to lean on for advice who have been doing it so long. I'm sure they helped you kind of along the way to set up your own business.
Yeah, definitely. And like being a mortgage broker, I know how to write a loan like the back of my hand, but when it comes to running a business, I've got no clue. And I only launched AMB in June this year. So I am learning daily how to just operate a business day in, day out. I'm new to this as anyone. And regardless of your field of work, running a business is something that I think you kind of just take the leap of faith and you work it out as you go on, Yeah,
it's an interesting point there that you say that leap of faith, because at some point you do have to leave that safety net of a full-time position and a salary and, guaranteed wage every 2 weeks to then try and make it on your own. Was it like a transition of like you were still working full-time, you had the money, and then you sort of started building the foundation to AMB so you could sort of just slip across? And were you trying to build some sort of client base while you still had a safety net, or was it a clean, look, I'm just going to finish up here and start here from scratch and rely on savings or something like that? How did that transition happen?
I'd like to say I was organized the best I can be, but I look back and I wasn't at all. But I think, looking at the past 12 months, especially, leading up to Christmas, being from East Gippsland, we got hit with the bushfires over Christmas, and that was a learning curve in itself. And then to get back into some normality and be hit with COVID in March, I spent the first lockdown back home with my family, and I just thought, being a mortgage broker, I don't really sit still for too long. I kind of sat back and realized what I want to go back to and what I don't. And for me, at AMB, my core value of the business is, educating people through their finances and really helping people and giving back. So I think I sat back and realized that it's now or never is my mentality now, and jumping the gun and launching AMB is what I've done.
It was a clean cut of your previous role. You finished and then you went to AMB. Like you just started AMB and then hoping that it would work out. Or like, were you did you have a good idea of like, I guess, how you would, I guess, in the early start generating clients? Are you doing everything yourself? Like, are you doing sales
Yes.
and marketing and plus all the advising and the lending and just everything at the moment? It's just you. So what did you have that
Yes.
initial plan of like, okay, I've quit my job, I have AMB, how do I generate revenue now? How do I, like, what was your plan?
Yeah, well, I did have a business plan to some extent. I must give myself credit for that. But I've been lending for just over 8 years now, and I've been mortgage broking for about 4 of them. So I've got I've got an amazing network of peers and referring parties. So my business is predominantly based on B2B business. So I work alongside buyers advocates, accountants, financial planners, and I service their clients and vice versa. So it wasn't kind of just quit and hope for the best. I did have a bit of a business strategy to, generate leads and generate business coming in the door from the get-go. And I think, having a few years experience under your belt before you do something crazy like this is key, because you've got to have a business plan in place.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely critically important. I talk to people, and some methods they do it like, they have their full-time job and then they try and slowly build up their business to the point where it's like this tipping point where they can't divert any more of their time from their full-time role to their side business because it's starting to become more overwhelming. Then they kind of they still take that leap of faith, but they kind of have a good
Yeah.
foundation in place where you built the network around you, and then you jumped straight across to the business. You didn't slowly build up the business. So that's an interesting route. But I think the key message is, for whatever path you take, is to have that business plan in place, that foundation in place, and a plan on how you're going to, get clients or how you're going to deliver your service, and not
Mhm.
just blindly jumping into something because, oh, this is my passion. I don't want to go to work anymore working for this place. I want to sell ice cream on the beach or something, but have no plan and then quit your job. I think that's the key.
And
And
then
that's,
hope for the best.
mm,
Yeah. Yeah. Look at it. And I suppose most people starting out their businesses, they have it as like a side hobby, and then they work their way up to quitting their other role. Whereas my role hasn't changed. Essentially, I've gone from being an employee to soon to be employer. So I've always been a lender. Or a mortgage broker. I've just gone from obviously getting a salary every week to nothing. So
yeah.
it's that hustle mode at the moment that I'm in.
So you're hinting at you're potentially going to be looking to hire someone. So I assume the past 4 or 5 months have been going pretty well, and you're seeing some growth or some at least stability in these uncertain times. Especially, you mentioned the bushfires now, kind of COVID. Here in Melbourne, we're in stage 4. We can't do anything. It's hard to go out for people to like visit houses and things like this at the minute. But
Yeah.
despite all that, are things going the way you'd hope? Like, everything seems to be going well.
Yeah, so AMB, I'm predominantly residential based lending, and then I've got an affiliated team that I work with that base themselves solely around commercial lending and asset finance, and then personal lending. So I try not to wear, I try and wear one or two hats and do that really well, and then outsource where I need to be. But I'm finding, obviously, the more that time goes on, data entry and that side of the business is not my strong point. My attention spans probably about 20-25 minutes. So I I will be looking to bring on an admin assistant in the next couple of months, and then start to scale the team up from there or out.
So it's safe to say things are going well with the business then.
Yes, yeah. Look, I I'm in the mentality of I don't watch the news anymore because it's
Yeah.
just doom and gloom. And for me, helping clients around their finance and refinancing is such a huge focus for AMB this year, because cash rates never been so cheap. And I'm saving clients on average $400-500 a month with a refinance. So regardless of what's happening around us, there's some really awesome deals to be made, and putting clients in better cash positions than they would be if they just, put their home loan on a pause for the next 3 months. I can be saving them actually back in their pocket while paying that off their loan. So I think although I may be crazy launching a business through a global pandemic, I couldn't wait any longer because I just wanted to get out there and help as many people as I can.
So talk us through what a lot of people who venture out and start their own business, they do have to be a one person band and they have to do everything. And time management is pretty critical. What does an average day look like for you? Like how much are you doing with like the admin and accounting? Probably not a lot. Like clients, chasing new clients, like following up with people, having meetings. Like, is there structure to your day, or do you just handle like as it comes in, you deal with it?
No, I'm quite structured in what my week looks like. So, it's not just a 9 to 5 anymore. It's, especially at the moment in Melbourne, being in stage 4, every day is just another day for me at the moment. And I see this as like an AMB boot camp almost, that, setting up myself for success initially, especially being in the first 6 months of this business. But for me, I'm quite structured in what my weeks look like. So for Mondays, it might be, paperwork and setting myself up for the week. Tuesdays is, booking all my appointments and a bit of paperwork. Wednesday, Thursdays, I'll generally have clients, meeting with clients and referrers. And then Fridays is more networking and more paperwork. And then Saturday mornings for me is like business kind of orientated work. So I'm quite structured in my week. Every day I'll wake up and something's changed and it'll throw the day around. But I think sticking to a core activity plan for your week of what that looks like is really detrimental to your business succeeding.
And so you mentioned like, you're still kind of new at this, or only sort of 6 months in, and you're kind of learning a lot as you go. What sort of resources do you turn to? Like, where do you go for sort of inspiration, like business development? Do you watch tons of YouTube videos, or are there lots of books you read? What are your business resources? Lean on people for advice. What's your go to in terms of the learning?
Probably everything that you've just mentioned. Really tapping back into your existing networks through LinkedIn. Having a networking group is crucial, and a good one. I'm a part of Fresh Networking, and there's about 20 odd hubs in Melbourne, and there's a couple interstate now. And being a part of a peer group where you can, grow from each other's ideas and concepts. And, I've really been able to rely on my hub, especially over the last couple of months, just with, I don't know, maybe marketing ideas or even the initial logo. I run it past a few of the group members. Just, what do you think of this? Does it look good, or am I losing the plot? Like, because I've just got no idea. And I think having a networking group has been key. And then also, where I lack in, the segments of my business, I literally, because everything is all online nowadays, I literally just get on and Google what skill set I feel like I'm lacking and self-educate that way. You've within the financial real estate kind of industries, we've got some amazing gurus out there now that you can kind of just follow and adapt it back to your business, like Mark Boris, for example, Gary V, just a couple of boys that I follow religiously. And, it might be just, segments about their everyday life, but the way that they think, you can kind of self-educate yourself and put it back into your business to some extent. And podcasts are my religion.
Yeah. So yeah, you mentioned like LinkedIn a lot and building out your network. For those kind of just starting out and might not have access to these sort of resources or knowledge people have, what would you recommend there? Would you still like try and find a networking hub if they're not too sure? Like, what's a good starting point? Slowly just make contacts on like Do you think LinkedIn's the best way to start stuff like that?
I suppose it depends on what industry, but LinkedIn is the professional form of Facebook. So, if you don't have LinkedIn, that would be a starting point. For me, I produce a lot of content through LinkedIn and then AMB's Facebook and Instagram. So for me, it's a form of marketing, education, lead generation, and self-development as well to some extent. So for anyone, I suppose, starting a new business, LinkedIn and getting platforms such as, Instagram and Facebook for your business, whatever business it is, would be key, especially nowadays. Everyone's online, whether we're in lockdown or not. It's a form of business marketing.
And
So, yeah.
yeah, just on that, on terms of marketing and things like that, when you generally start a business, it is generally you and you're the face of the business. What are your thoughts on personal branding versus the branding of the business? Do you think one is more powerful than the other? Or do you have a focus on, say, marketing AMB or marketing Abbey?
Personal brand is everything. So people follow people that they believe in, and I'm people will follow you wherever you go. I found that. I've got clients that I serviced back in Perth, and I've been in Melbourne for 5 years now. So I think personal brand is key. And bringing it back to your business is also key. So I suppose it's 50-50, but personal brand's everything. People follow you because they like you and they believe in you. And regardless of your business, personal brand's everything.
Yeah, maybe even I think more important. So maybe a 60-40 or a 70-30 or something like
Yeah.
that. I mean, you could play the 80-20 rule, but like that's just a figure. I think, yeah, I'm very much a believer of the personal brand, especially when it comes to small business. Building that is critical because, people want to work with Abbey. And how do you do that? Through AMB. And then as AMB grows, you'll obviously have other people they could work with, but your reputation as the leader for AMB, people want to work with you, but you'll be too busy. But because you employ this person, you obviously trust them, so then they trust you and the business through that way. So I think it's
Yeah.
extremely important to constantly sort of market yourself. And I guess, do you have your like a personal Instagram that you use as like branding for Abbey, or do you mostly focus like an Instagram for AMB?
Oh, probably half. Like, I
Yeah.
put the content out through AMB, but I always share it through my personal platform. So, I think the videos obviously are myself educating people around finance. It's launched through the AMB platform, but I'm always sharing it through my personal platforms because that's where the lead generation comes in,
Yeah.
from yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think another thing about what people really enjoy about having their own business and when they transition across to that is, I was talking in the last episode, I was talking to Alex, who used to be a professional basketball player, and his whole focus was on sport. Like, a lot of sport people, that's all they want to do with their lives, and they can't imagine themselves doing anything else than sport. Then he had like a knee injury, and then he's like, oh, okay, what do I do now? And then he fell into sales and did that for a while. Long story short, he now runs his own business called Athlete to Business, which helps athletes transition from the sporting world into a business world, and recruits and provides training and stuff. And a lot of the thing for him was, he's like, I was doing this sales role and it was, I was earning a lot of money and I was comfortable and stuff, but there was some fulfillment missing inside of me. There was a passion missing that, why am I getting up in the morning to work for this person, for this role that I'm not really, in love with? And he found that fulfillment through helping other people, and how he could do that by starting his own business and developing this thing that he could, nurture and see grow and put all his energy and resources into. And it's like his little baby sort of thing. Do you find that as well now, having, transition from working from someone else to yourself and all the freedoms that bring? Was it like a new spark that ignited within yourself? Was there a similar thing, like, oh, I'm a lot more passionate about this thing now, or a little bit different?
I've always been over passionate around the real estate industry and lending. But I think, as the years have gone on, I've realized that, especially the finance industry is so heavily male dominated that that kind of used to intimidate me, but now I kind of see that as, this is my niche. Being a strong female leader in the mortgage space is what's really I suppose there's not that many of that. That used to intimidate me, but now that's actually my calling, and that's, you know, where I've kind of sat back and realized that there's an opening in the market for it, and that's when I sat back and launched AMB, really.
Yeah, awesome. I guess kind of as we sort of on the tail end now of the episode, what advice would you have to others thinking about starting their own business? Now, we touched on it a little bit earlier on, talking about like it's really important to have a business plan and a strong foundation, but maybe like what are some things that you wish you had known when you first started that you know now, or that some tidbits you could pass on?
Oh, that's a good one. I think um, whatever savings you've got, double it
Yeah, before you start anything.
before you quit. Have a clear business plan, like a 30-day, 60-day, 90-day, and check in with yourself every week. You know, Mondays for me is to sit back and go, okay, what have I done for the last week? Where am I heading? So being really strict in your you know, activity plan for the week, for the month, just to know that you're hitting those core metrics to make sure it is successful. Um, Self-education, I can't get enough training at the moment, and that's one of my core metrics for the business. I've got to you know, educate myself in segments of the business that I'm lacking each week. So education and being really motivated to self-educate. You know, it'd be just as easy right now to put on something on Netflix or whatever and kind of just chill out, but no, it's like make or break at the moment. So listening to podcasts and you know, I suppose self-educating where you can is really necessary. But just understanding that if whatever it is that you're about to launch, you know, if that's your core passion, people are going to follow you and believe in what you do. So I think, you know, I suppose believing in yourself and just taking that leap of faith and knowing it will all work out in the end is something that, you know, I'm seeing for myself now. So I wish I'd done it sooner.
Yeah, I think yeah, I think a lot of people say that they're like, yeah, I wish I started sooner, and I think that can be a big downturn because you're always like, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. Oh, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Or I'll post this video tomorrow. Oh, I'll film myself this thing tomorrow. Oh, I'll, you know, set this thing up tomorrow. I think that's the biggest thing. And like if you're on YouTube watching videos and not getting distracted by the related videos, that looks interesting. The next thing you know, you're on like the weird part of YouTube watching
Yes.
bunny rabbits jump around or something, or fail
Yeah.
videos, and then it's like midnight and you're like, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. So yeah, I think
Tomorrow's another day. Yeah. No,
focus
making
is
it
incredibly
today.
important. And also
Yeah.
another big takeaway is like betting on yourself as well, knowing that, like believing in yourself that you can do this and not thinking, oh, I can't do this. I think that's also very important.
Exactly. And you know, you don't know unless you try. And I think if you can back yourself and you know what you're good at what you do, the rest will follow suit. And I'm a walking advocate of that for now. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
think that's
believe in
another
yourself.
important thing as well, because I was talking to Alex and I was like, when did you know you wanted to start your own business? And he's like, oh, I put up like a note of iPad notes thing, and he had like 100 business ideas just because he thought it would be cool. But in the end, the one he followed, the one he gets up in the morning, is that one that is linked to your strength and your passion. Because if you just go, oh, it'd be cool to start a business, and it's nothing to do that you're interested in, you're not going to put the time and effort and dedication required for that business to succeed. I think it really has to align with yourself and your core values and your passions in order for it to succeed.
Yeah, you got to be hungry enough to want to work it 7 days a week. And you know, I've really found my niche in the mortgage broking industry, and you know, every day is another day. But I'm happy to get up and help people with their finances day in, day out. So yeah, if you're passionate about what you do, the rest will all follow suit and work out in the end.
Well, Abby, thank you so much for joining us on this episode. If people out there are interested in maybe having a chat to you and finding more about your services and what you can offer, what's the best way for people to get in contact with you?
Yeah, certainly. So ambfinancialservices.com.au is our website, or you can find us at AMB on Instagram, Facebook, or even Abbey Reggardo on LinkedIn.
There you go. Seek her out and say hello. Thank you for listening for another to another episode, and we'll see you again next week.